And let us praise God one more time with the glory. We're going to work today. All of us are going to do this sermon. So you need to play along. Just pretend it's a Halloween party and you're in some sort of a costume and you're here to have a good time and we're here to play along, okay? Willing to do that? You willing to help me out here today? Sure. Yeah, okay. Well, first, listen to this story from the modified. Well, I've kept it faithful, but I'm going to. It's more like telling the story than it is like reading word for word in your favorite translation. So just listen up. It looked like he was only passing through when Jesus entered Jericho. And a man named Zacchaeus lived there. Now, Zacchaeus was a head tax collector, and he was very rich. He was also very short. Now, Zacchaeus wanted to see Jesus as Jesus passed in the center of town. He couldn't even get a glimpse. He was too short. And the crowd blocked his view. So Zacchaeus ran ahead of the crowd and he climbed a sycamore tree. And that way he could get above the crowd and he could see Jesus when Jesus walked by. Well, Jesus came along, and Jesus saw this short little guy sitting up in a sycamore tree. And Jesus said, Zacchaeus, come on down out of that tree. I decided I'm going to spend the night here in Jericho, and I want to stay in your house. Well, you can imagine Zacchaeus was pretty excited about that. Wow. And so Zacchaeus scrambled down out of the tree and began to lead Jesus toward his house. But while he was doing that, the crowd began to stir, and they began to grumble. They began to complain. And then, lo and behold, before you know it, somebody shouted out, Jesus, this guy's a sinner. Don't you know who Zacchaeus is? Yeah, said somebody else. He's a tax collector. All tax collectors, oh, they're corrupt. Yeah. And besides, Jesus, he's rich. And you know those rich people. And Zacchaeus, he's part of the Roman government and they occupy us, and you can't make a friend out of him. Zacchaeus is the wrong guy, Jesus, for you to be hanging around with. What is it? You want him to finance your campaign? Are you buying into this old Jesus? Just think what's going to happen, how your image, Jesus. What's going to happen when people say, oh, Jesus, he's just interested in those rich folk. Oh, Jesus, Zacchaeus doesn't care about anybody else but himself. He's got everything he needs, but he don't. All he does is tell us to pay the taxes and the taxes and more taxes. You know those tax collectors. But Zacchaeus was listening to all that. Well, he had to say something, this short little guy. And so he said, hey, Jesus, I'm not one of those tax collectors that adds on something for themselves. No. I am honest and I don't do anything wrong. And if I find out that what I've been doing is wrong, then I'll return whatever extra money was collected fourfold. Don't you listen, Jesus, to all these people who are telling you that just because I'm a tax collector, that somehow I'm sort of this evil thing. The crowd, of course, they just fed on that. Yeah, he can't even tell the truth, Jesus. Yeah. Well, Jesus said, today, liberation has come to this house where Zacchaeus lives. Since even Zacchaeus is a child of Abraham. One of us. It's not one of them. Humanity, my humanity, Jesus said, my humanity demands that I seek and liberate those who are hated by society and discriminated against and rejected because of their lifestyle. So tomorrow's Halloween, huh? What happens on Halloween? What?
Trick or treat.
Trick or treat. What's that mean?
Kids come to my door and want candy.
Kids want candy. And if you don't give them candy, then what? Then they're supposed to trick, right? Yeah. Anybody ever see the trick side of trick or treat up here? You know? Well, that's an interesting pattern, isn't it? I wonder what folk would do with Zacchaeus if they went to his house. Think they'd trick, or you think they'd treat? Or he'd treat? Or if he was the one, what do you think? Well, we're gonna find out. What else on Halloween?
All Saints Day and ghosts.
Ghosts? Oh. Why are we using, why ghosts? Why do we dress up in costumes?
The next day is supposed to be All Hallows Eve.
The Halloween is All Hallows Eve. It's the day, it's kind of like Lent. There's the day before Lent when we go out and we party because the next day we're going to throw away all of the fatty stuff. Right? So you before to get up enough fat to carry over for 40 days. That's what Lent, that's the day before, the day before Halloween or Lent. Well, Halloween's kind of like that. Tomorrow's the day we remember all the people who have died and passed, and their spirits might come back. So we're going to dress up and we're going to scare them away. So we're going to make everybody so confused they can't tell who the real people are and who the ghosts are. We're going to wear masks. You aren't going to be able to tell who I am. You think any of the people that were shouting at Zacchaeus were wearing a mask, playing a role, hiding who they were? Do you think Zacchaeus maybe was wearing a mask? Or that passage says that Jesus said, "I'm the Son of Man." He's emphasizing that he's the human side of Jesus, of God. Now, was God wearing a mask, a costume, by having these two sides of himself? And he could show the human side, or he could show the divine side. Masks, costumes. Why do we do all that? What do you think? Who in our world do we look at and say, "Oh, you're just playing a role. You really don't want me to, I don't want you to really know who I really am"? Anything come to mind? We do it to ourselves. What about in our public lives? Anybody ever hear of a hypocrite? You ever see anybody on TV who's want you to like them, maybe vote for them. And they have the vision that they give to you. And they tell you they stand for X, Y, Z, when in their private lives they engage in X, Y, Z. Any masks out there? Oh yeah, oh yeah. And what happens? Now think of Zacchaeus. The children's song had it right. Zacchaeus was a wee little man. Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. And here's this wee little man who's got enough money to do almost anything he wants or pay somebody to do it for him. But by himself, he's just a wee little man. He's got this powerful position. He's got authority over all kinds of people, but underneath it all, he's just a wee little man. Now imagine Zacchaeus trying to figure out what he's going to do. He wants to see Jesus, but it wouldn't be fitting for this wee little man to stand in the crowd and kind of jump up and down. That wouldn't work at all, would it? So what's this wee little man with all this power and all this authority and all this money? What's he gonna do? He's gonna run ahead and he's gonna climb a tree. No, wait a minute. He's not just a tax collector. He's the head tax collector. And my father was kind of had a quirk. At least I think it was a quirk. He could be mowing the lawn. The lawnmower would run out of gas. He would go in the house, take a shower, get all cleaned up, put on what we would call casual office business work clothing. He would get in the car, he would drive to the gas station. Now this is, but he would sit in the car while the attendant came out and filled his gas can, put the gas can back in the trunk, and then he would pay the attendant and he would drive home. He would go back into the house. He would change his clothes into work clothes. Then he would go out, he would put the gas in the lawnmower and continue mowing the grass. Now, I kind of chuckle about that because I just think that's kind of foolish. But he had an image. And he was going to keep it. And nobody, you don't know anybody like that, do you? I'll bet there's maybe some women who never go outside without having their hair in the right place and lipstick on, and I'll bet there's some guys too. You just figure it out. You know anybody who is so concerned about how other people might see them? I see you had some heads nodding. You know any public figures who are concerned about people, how they might see them? You know, when I was a kid, no politician ever showed up with an open collar or without a jacket on. Didn't happen. The ties were always red. The coats were always blue. That's what you did as a politician. But now, I saw Barack Obama yesterday on a doing some sort of a speech. Shirts rolled up, sleeves are rolled up, collars open, no coat. Every day. What's he trying to say? He's trying to say, look, I'm just like everybody else. And he's projecting an image. All of us do that, don't we? Don't we? But there's part of us that we present to the world and part of us that we don't want anybody to ever know. Let's get back to Zacchaeus. Part of his image is this wee little man. Is what does he wear when he goes outside? He certainly doesn't go in coveralls and a sweatshirt like he would be if he was just coming out of the barn. No, he's gonna dress up in his Sunday go-to-meetings. He's gonna be dressed to the nines and he's gonna have robes on and they're gonna be white and they're gonna be clean and he's gonna go climb a tree. When's the last time you climbed a tree? Anybody here 50 years of age or older who has climbed a tree in the last 6 months? Why not? Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. Back of our house, there was a row of trees. Our yard was on one side, and on the other side was a field, a farmer's field. And in that row of trees, there was this one tree that kind of shot up above all the others. And when we were kids, we just loved that tree. We called it the ladder tree because it was like climbing a ladder to get to the very, very, very top. And when you got to the top, you could see all over the place. And you could get that tree swaying from one way to the other, and it was fun. And I can't imagine what my mom thought when she saw us hanging out of the top of that tree. How many of you climbed a tree when you were kids? Yeah. How many of you thought that was really cool? That was fun. It was. And how many of you today wish you could still do it? See, now there's a few folk here who could still climb a tree or who wouldn't feel silly doing it. But now imagine Zacchaeus, a powerful autocrat, government official with all kinds of authority, dressed to the nines, older, he's experienced, he's probably in his 50s. He's got this image and he needs people to respect his power and authority, or he can't do his job. He's gonna climb a tree. Right. He climbed a sycamore tree so he could see what everybody was talking about with this pop star Jesus who was going to come through town. So he did. Image. I need to see who this guy is. So the mask comes off. Not all the way. Ever been in that kind of a situation? Whether it was something you needed to do, had to do, and it didn't matter what that image was. You kind of dropped everything and you just did what you had to do and you didn't care. I'm willing to bet that every person here at one point or another has said, heck with it. This is too important. I have to do what I have to do. Well, then we get that whole exchange with the crowd and the key is saying, look, I give everything, I give half of what I earn to the poor. That's a whole lot more than a tithe. If I've done something wrong, I repay it 4 times. So you taxpayer, if I've done something wrong to you, I'll give it back 4 times what I collected in terms of taxes. And Jesus, not saying this is a holy thing, not saying God demands it. Jesus says to that crowd, look through the mask, look beyond. Look and see who he really is. He is not a sinner just because he's a tax collector. He may sin, but he's not a sinner because he's a tax collector. For crying out loud. Even if you weren't occupied by the Romans and you had your own government and you had your own self-rule, but you'd still have taxes to pay. Somebody's going to collect those taxes that we've all agreed we need. Come on, people. Give this guy a break. What makes you think that he's like everybody else? You see, a tax collector in those days went out to collect what Rome wanted. And then they'd maybe ask for an extra whatever they wanted. And they'd add that on to your tax bill. And whatever they could pull out of you, that's what they kept. That's why people didn't trust tax collectors, because they took more than they were supposed to, or than they needed to, and they kept it for themselves. And the head tax collector, he got a cut of everybody else's corruption. So you see, Jesus says, look, there are powerful systems, social systems going on here. You can't judge everyone because they happen to be in a position, particular place in the system. We all live in that system. We all have to do things we don't want to do. We all have to do things that rub us wrong. And we all put on masks and we all do what we can to fit the mold. I don't know about you, but when I was a kid, I didn't always fit the mold. Heck, I'm 75, I still always fit the mold. I'm the odd one in our family in terms of a whole lot of things. 4 brothers and sisters. I'm the one that sticks out like a sore thumb. Any of you ever have that kind of a feeling that you just didn't fit? I bet. You can't judge everybody be the same just because they're in the same place like a cog in a wheel. We all have our masks. We all play Halloween. So now, what about public figures? And the masks they wear. Is it a good thing we wear masks or is it a bad thing? What do you think? It's a genuine question. I think it's probably a good thing. Halloween's a good time. We get to try being something that we're not. We get to hide behind a mask. We get to pretend we're Superman or any other superhero. That if like Superman, I take off my mask, now you see the really good and strong and powerful me. That's just backwards, isn't it? Isn't it? But how many times have you hidden the good, powerful side of you because you didn't want to speak up when you saw something going down that you knew in your heart shouldn't be going down? I had. Because I was scared. I was afraid that I saw going down might turn on me. I was afraid if everybody knew that I felt like I really didn't fit the norms of society, that somehow I would be the object of their scorn. Zacchaeus crowd. When the mask hides something that's wrong, I think it's bad. And we need to figure out how to get the mask off. Ourselves, but others as well. But sometimes people hide the truth because they don't want to stick out. Hey, you know, sometimes I wear a mask because I just want to blend in. And I don't want people to know how smart I am or how whatever, or how old I am, how much education I've got. I just want to blend in with regular, ordinary folk, and I don't want them to think that I've got my nose up in the air. So like Superman, I hide the super stuff because I don't want to brag. What do you think? Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Seems to me that sometimes we need to use the skills and the gifts and so on that we have in a way that helps other people. To the requires wearing a mask, wear a mask, like Superman. But to the extent that if you could see through my mask, you would find a hypocrite in extreme. And I'm hiding something that's terrible and awful and is continuing to go on and shouldn't, then you ought to know. Right? What do you think? Final question, and I really need your help because I don't have an answer. If we believe a mask should come off of somebody else, how do we take it off? What responsibility do I have if this person is hiding something that is going to hurt or harm of taking their mask off? Genuine question. How do I do it? How did Jesus do it?
By making Zacchaeus feel good about it.
He took the mask off and said, "You are more than just a wee little man," right? He said to the crowd, what? There's two sides to this guy. There's a true side and there's a false side. I want to tell you, I'm going to go home and I'm going to spend the night in his house because I know the true side. And the truth is, Zacchaeus is a child of Abraham, is a child of God. Stop. End of story. And Jesus is probably criticized for that. He becomes a friend. Within a week or 2 weeks, Jesus would be hanging on a cross. There are costs. Are you willing to stand up and say, look, this is wrong? Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. Zacchaeus climbed a sycamore tree, Jesus for to see. And Jesus said, Zacchaeus, come down, I'm going to spend the night with you. And Zacchaeus was no longer a wee little man. Are you? Let us join in singing hymn number 350.
Ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my eyes that I may hear voices of truth, thy sentence clear. And while the wave notes fall on my ear, everything false will disappear. Silently for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. Open my mouth and let me hear, gladly the warm truth everywhere. Open my heart and let me pray, love with thy children thus to share. Silently now I wait for thee, ready, my God, thy will to see. Open my ears, illumine me, Spirit divine.
You may be seated. We come before God in prayer and concern. We are concerned for so things, and we are joyful that you are present here in our world. I invite you to speak aloud a concern, maybe just a name, or maybe a place where you see hatred rampant. Say it out loud. And then as a prayer comes forward, let us all say, Lord, hear our prayer. We pray for those who are sick and hospitalized, for there the masks come off. Lord, hear our prayer. We pray for those who live behind a mask because they are afraid of being truly known. Lord, hear our prayer. Especially for Wellesley, Sonny, Charlie, Patrick, Mary, and Arnold. Lord, hear these and all of our prayers, those spoken and those said silently. And pray as you have taught us to pray by saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For yours is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory. Let us close our worship by saying, I have decided to follow Jesus. Number 450 in the red hymnal. As we do that, following Jesus may mean telling the truth about to be told. Let's follow Jesus. And now, brothers and sisters in Christ, go into the world Take the masks off and reveal the truth. Take the masks off that are hiding falsehood that harms. Tell the truth, and the truth